All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Alissa. I am a product marketer at Dovetail and super excited in this new year, 2025, to take you through a complete demo of the Dovetail Customer Insights Hub platform. I am joined today by our product expert, community maven, overall amazing person, Serena Chan. Serena, you want to introduce yourself to the crowd?
Hello, everyone. Great to meet you. I am the solutions architect here at Dovetail. I've had a number of roles, background user research, so here to chat best practices and help address any questions that come up. Excited for our webinar, Alyssa.
Me too. This is going to be great. Really excited to get into it. Maybe for those who are joining, we have people trickling in. Just drop your name in the chat, where you're dialing in from, and your level of familiarity with Dovetail. How long have you been using Dovetail? Are you an expert? Are you brand new? Everyone is welcome to this demo. We think that there is something in this for everyone, especially since we've made a lot of updates to the platform in the past year or so. So go ahead and just drop your information in the chat. And while we do that and let people trickle in, I'll just go ahead and get some housekeeping notes out of the way. This webinar is being recorded. So just to be totally transparent, we will probably use the whole hour of time for this webinar. There's a lot of content. So if you have to drop early for a meeting, or if you have a colleague who wasn't able to make it, no worries. We are going to send out the recording to everyone who registered after the event. So you'll have that available in your inbox soon. And then even though this is a lot of content, we have baked in time throughout the presentation for questions. So if you have a question that pops up, don't wait till the end. Throw it in the Q&A panel in the bottom of the Zoom bar there. And Serena will be moderating, answering questions as they come in, but also saving some for live Q&A as well throughout the session. So please, again, try to put it in the Q&A. We can't promise the chat. The chat sometimes, there's a lot of conversation and stuff happening and we might miss a question. We'll try our best to get to everything, but if you can keep it in the Q&A panel, that would make it super easy for us. Lots of people chiming in. A good roll call here. I see people who are brand new to Dovetail, people who have used Dovetail in several projects. Welcome, everyone. Megan, always great to see you, one of our Dovetail experts. So I'll just go ahead and dive right in. Like I mentioned, there's a wide range of folks who have different levels of familiarity with Dovetail. But no matter what level of knowledge you have, I'm willing to bet that all of us are here today because you understand the power of customer centricity. It's kind of turned into a buzzword that almost feels like it has no meaning anymore. It's permeated every business, every industry. But I think one of the best things about working at Dovetail, one of my favorite things about being a part of this company, is that we work with organizations that are truly living up to that promise of putting their customers first. And as a result, they're delivering some of the most innovative products in the world. They're building cool software. They're building next-gen tractors. They're providing the best healthcare in the world. They're even building really cool blenders. Dovetail's mission is truly to improve the quality of everything, no matter what your thing is. And we know that in order to improve your thing, you need to truly understand your customers. But we all know in today's day and age, it's really easy to talk to customers. There are myriad tools to collect mountains of qual and quant data. So instead, today, we're going to focus on how the Dovetail Customer Insights Hub lets you leverage the power of AI to make it easier to listen to your customers so that you can build deeper understanding and build better things. So today, I'm going to walk you through these key workflows that we see research teams using at companies like Okta, John Deere, and Deloitte to achieve just that. So there are kind of 4 chapters to this demo today. Each of them are kind of the key ways that we see our customers using Dovetail across the organization. First, we'll talk about how Dovetail helps you easily centralize customer knowledge. We'll then kind of, once the data is into Dovetail and it's easy to get in, then we'll show you how you can perform data analysis faster via our projects solution. And then kind of chapter 3 will be more about outside of those moment in time research projects, how you can stay on top of continuous trends of streams of data via channels. And then finally, kind of to wrap it all up, we'll kind of show the power of the Insights Hub once you have that critical mass of data and insights to really help align and empower your teams with that voice of the customer at scale. So by achieving all of these, we find that product and research and design teams aren't only drastically reducing the time it takes to analyze and share customer insights, but they're also making better, more user-centric decisions. So with that preamble out of the way, let's go ahead and dive right in. Let's get into the platform. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And what you'll see here is I've been put on the landing page, the home page of a demo workspace that we have at Dovetail called the Zotify workspace. It's a fictional music streaming service that we know and love here. And so you'll see I'm thrown into the home screen here. And as I kind of, so before I start interacting with this data, I want to make sure that I have access to all of the information that I have about my customers, because the fact of the matter is that these valuable customer insights are buried in tools across teams and departments. It means that if we don't have this central hub, it means that no one has a complete picture of the customer, which leads to siloed understanding and critical knowledge gaps. But by using Dovetail, it is now super easy for me to aggregate and organize all types of qualitative customer data in one platform. So like I said, I've been thrown into the workspace here. I already have access to some quick little highlights from recent customer calls that I could potentially dig into. If I'm a stakeholder just looking for certain relevant data types, maybe I'll click into one of these feeds that have been custom set up in my workspace to kind of dig into the insights that matter most to me. This is all available and fully customizable for users on our enterprise plan. But maybe I want to go ahead and just get into the folder structure where I know all the projects and channels live inside of my workspace. You'll see a fully customizable folder structure. In this case, it's been organized based on product line, based on team. Other organizations organized based on, say, product lines or business initiatives. And then within each folder, you'll see that we have different projects, and then we also have different channels. Projects are more kind of point in time research projects where we can combine all different manner of qualitative data, whether that's customer calls, presentations, industry reports, any sort of surveys, any sort of qualitative data that we want to gather and then analyze in itself. Whereas a channel is more of a continuous stream of data, of feedback data, whether that's support tickets and PS scores that we want to continually analyze. So how do I get data into Dovetail very quickly so I can start doing that analysis? There are a couple different ways you can get data into Dovetail, and I'll kind of go through this throughout the presentation, but just to kind of show you the key workflows here. Within a project, once I set up a project, I can manually import data via a drag and drop or choosing files. We also offer integrations here into your Zoom, Google Drive, OneDrive, so you can very quickly upload calls or documents into a project. But really the power of Dovetail and some of the investments that we've made in the product are really kind of removing a lot of that manual barrier to entry and automating data import. So the way I would do that is by navigating to integrations in my settings. And you'll see here that we have a number of connected integrations already in the workspace. Integrations for Dovetail are both data in, getting kind of that raw data in, and then data out, kind of getting those insights and information out to your stakeholders. There are a lot of different integrations here. I won't go into all of them. I will just call out the most exciting one that we recently released late last year, which is our calendar integration. These are integrations with Google Calendar and Outlook, and then also via Zoom, Teams, and Google Meet. So all I would have to do is configure this integration one time so that any calls that are relevant to my project are automatically uploaded into Dovetail. All I would have to do is specify the calendar, my video conferencing source, and then also give some keywords for Dovetail to look at. Let's say I'm doing research. So maybe my event title has the word research or interview. Maybe I'm a salesperson and I want to upload my sales calls into Dovetail for analysis. Maybe my events are discovery. And then all I would have to do is select a project that I would want these calls to be imported to. And then once I hit save, what will immediately happen is that any call that on my calendar that has any of these keywords in the event title, once the call completes, the recording will automatically be uploaded into the relevant project inside of Dovetail. And if you have Matic automation set up, it will automatically analyze that call as well. But we'll get into that in just a second. We also have, I'll call out 2 more integrations. One is our Zapier integration. So if you are using Zapier, you can set up custom Zaps through that to connect any tool that works with Zapier. And then we also have a read-write API that we released last year. So if you have access to development resources, you can connect Dovetail to virtually any tool in your workflow to get data in or out. Additionally, with customer feedback data being centralized in Dovetail, we also recently released some big updates to our platform to be able to store information about your customers themselves. Those who are longtime Dovetail users might remember our people database. We gave it a big facelift last year, and we renamed it Contacts. And so once you go into Contacts, you'll be able to see now you have a complete database of all of your past research participants, rich with kind of these metadata fields for segmentation. Probably a really good one to call out would be the last participated column here. So you can see when participants have last participated in research to avoid kind of over contacting and over touching your customers. But probably the biggest upgrade to the contacts database is the ability to drill into specific contacts and tie them back to projects that you have done inside of Dovetail. So in the example of Freddie here, I not only have all this rich metadata that I can segment and search off of, but now I also have an AI-powered summary here of kind of the main takeaways of what we've learned from Freddie over the 2 different kind of projects he's worked with us. And then I have a full audit trail of all of the different data, highlights, insights, and projects associated with Freddie. And so now I can really close that loop and see how all of my contacts that I'm using for research are now contributing to different insights across the workspace. Coming soon here will be the ability to actually kick off and automate user research recruitment. So being able to create recruitment studies, automate invites, scheduling, incentive fulfillment, and being able to not only invite people who are already in your contacts database, but also through our integration with Respondent, be able to recruit from a pool of over 3 million contacts across different industries, job types, B2B, B2C, you name it. We're super excited to kind of uplift this even more and let you fully kind of automate a lot of your research process without having to leave Dovetail. So Recruit is currently in a closed beta with a select number of customers, and it will be opened really soon. We're very excited about it. So that kind of concludes this first chapter of kind of the centralizing customer knowledge or the research repository use case that we see with Dovetail. I'll go ahead and pause, Serena. Any questions surfacing that we want to bring to the group?
Yeah, so far we've got lots of excitement around the new contacts experience, and folks were wondering if it's automated in terms of the last participated data point. My assumption is it just pulls from kind of the last note that maybe they were attached to, and then also others having, great experience so far with it, and also feedback around ways that we could include kind of more insights and data around the contact information.
Yeah, absolutely. The last contacted, yes, as far as I understand, connects back to the note that it's associated with. So whenever there's a note that has Freddie, for example, attached to it, that would be his last participated date. Glad to hear there's tons of excitement. We're definitely kind of on our roadmap in general at all times is being able to find a way to get more metadata inside of Dovetail across other solutions or other tools that your organization may be using. Like, for example, industry or account that they might be associated with, like say in your CRM, for example. These are all things that we're super excited to kind of close the loop on to provide more kind of visibility into how these individual contacts fit into the larger kind of initiatives of your business. Great question.
Awesome. People are stoked and already asking for ways to integrate CRMs. Coming soon.
Coming soon. Yes, we're very excited about that. On the radar. Great. So I'll go ahead and move right along. This is kind of the meat of today's presentation, because once you have data inside of Dovetail, it is now time to do the work of analyzing it and pulling out those really rich insights. And especially in the world of qualitative data analysis, these super complex data types, analysis often involves tedious manual work and takes a long time, a really long time, hours, weeks, maybe. And so what this risks is that the insights that might be delivered from this analysis aren't meeting the pace of how decisions are made in the organization. And so the teams that are making product or experience decisions are often left cherry picking data or relying solely on intuition. But now Dovetail provides a suite of AI powered features, which we like to call our magic features, that help accelerate your workflow and get you from raw data to insight faster than ever before. And so for this part of the demo, I'm going to pop back into that customer listening habits project. And so before we even just get into the calls and show the magic analysis piece, a couple of best practices I want to call out here. When starting a project in Dovetail and kind of this world of kind of AI analysis, there are a couple of key things that we advise all of our users do right at the beginning of every project. The first is to make sure that you've set up the magic automation to the preferences of yourself or your organization. AI was developed at Dovetail in a very intentional and purposeful way that there's always a human in the loop that can decide when and where and how to apply AI automation to make their workflows easier. And this is an example of that. At the project level, you have the option to turn on or off or have different levels of AI automation depending on your preference. These are the default settings for every project that you set up in Dovetail. So this means that every call that is uploaded into your project, Dovetail will auto-detect the language and automatically transcribe. We offer over 40 different languages supported here in Dovetail, so you can choose the language that you know you're going to use if that's your preference. Dovetail will also automatically summarize any type of data that comes into a project. This includes call transcripts, documents, presentations. You can toggle this on or off if you'd like. And then highlighting key moments. So this is where Dovetail will go through the entire call or document and highlight and suggest key moments and apply the appropriate tags where necessary. And then because it's set to suggest, you can then accept that highlight or you can reject it. This is default to suggest. You can turn it on completely. So Dovetail will just go in and create those highlights and tags on the fly, or you can turn it off and do that manual data analysis yourself. We also have some other things in the works right now around auto creating new tags. To note here, highlighting and tagging key moments will only use existing tags associated with the project. We are looking into the ability to auto create new tags, the ability to automatically redact sensitive info, and then the ability to auto create insights. These are all things that our team is exploring right now. One more best practice to call out would be how we set up tags. So I'm going to pop over to the tags tab here. And so tags are essentially thematic classifications or kind of groupings that we might put different highlights into or different points of interest to help us kind of see emerging trends, both within the context of this particular project or across the workspace. Tags can be done bottoms up in Dovetail. You can create them as you go, or you can do a tops down approach where you apply tags at the start of the project and then apply them from there. You'll see that here in this case, I'm using a global tag board. This is a standardized tag board that exists across the workspace. These are available as part of our enterprise plan as well. You'll see that this tag board is linked across 7 different projects. And so this really, the power here is that then now I can see trends existing within these 7 different projects and kind of start linking things together. The best practice we call out here is that it's great to have a set of tags, whether they're just for your project or global tags. Have a few already loaded up when you start your project. And then most importantly, make sure that every tag has a quick little description. This is super important if you're using the suggested highlight feature. Dovetail's AI is looking at tag descriptions as one data point when deciding where and when to apply certain tags to certain highlights. So just make sure that you're taking the time to just give it a quick little descriptive kind of context to help Dovetail's AI better work for you. All right, So once we have that all set up, we start bringing data into Dovetail, either by importing it or by setting up that calendar integration in the case of these calls. Now let's go ahead and click into this conversation with Pat, and we'll start to see kind of what I'm greeted with once I come into this particular data point for the first time. You'll see that the whole video is here of the conversation, and then I have the full transcript of the call as well. You'll see that Pat is already named here. We'll go ahead and check to see if he's a linked contact. Looks like I don't think he is, right? So if I created this contact, Pat, within my workspace, now any other time that Pat does research with us, we'll be able to see not just the outputs from this call, but every other call or research study that he does with us. So just kind of closing the loop there on contacts. This unnamed participant I know is my fellow Dovetailer, let's just say it's Serena doing the interview here. And you'll see once I edit her name one time, it's reflected throughout the transcript, which is super handy. And now I can kind of interact with this transcript as I'd like. I can add more context here if I'd like. I can type around. I can do my own kind of manual highlighting. I can manually tag based on the tags that I've created, or I can create new ones. I can comment and bring people into this discussion. Hey, Serena, take a look at this. She'll get a notification to come and look in the workspace. I can also redact sensitive information. Let's say my organization has compliance requirements where I need to redact any sensitive information or blur participant video to protect their privacy. That's available through our redact feature, which is available on our enterprise plan. But I have full control over this entire transcript. What I also have here on the right is this AI-powered summary of the call itself, complete with kind of these handy chapter breaks. So we can kind of see the different sections of this call. I can click into, say, this challenges and suggestions, and it automatically takes me to the part of the transcript where that conversation begins. And again, I have full edit capabilities here. I can, type more context or add more information. Again, I have complete control over how the AI outputs end up looking in the finished product. From summarize to highlights, you might remember that I had highlights set to suggest when I started this project. So you'll see here that I have 6 suggested highlights on this particular call. And as I kind of scroll through them, you can see that some have 1, maybe 2 tags applied. There might be no tags applied in some cases. And I have the option to accept this highlight as is. Maybe I want to add more tags to the highlight, or I can just outright reject it if it's not relevant for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and accept all of these just for the sake of time. And then once I have these highlights, I can immediately start sharing insights incredibly quickly with my teammates, with my stakeholders. I already showed the comment flow, but maybe I just want to show this little snippet from Pat really quickly with one of my teammates. I can really quickly invite them into the workspace here, or I can copy the link to the highlight. And then let's just say I'm going to pop over to the Zotify Slack instance, and I want my colleague Emma to be able to see this, this highlight from Pat. And what you'll see here is it automatically embeds the text of the transcript, and then also will play the video as well of Pat talking about what he likes about Zotify.
I use it when I'm commuting. I like to use it to discover new music
So now in just a matter of seconds, I have brought the voice of our customer, Pat, directly to my colleague, Emma, to kind of give her that insight into what a particular customer is saying in any given time. Moving my way through the sidebar here, we've already talked about tags. One more thing I'll call out here, kind of a power user move for Dovetail, is the ability to add more fields to data types. Similar to what we saw in contacts, fields allow for that extra level of metadata, so you can really segment and work with information in the workspace to really find and key in on those insights that you're looking for a lot more quickly. So we also have the ability to have workspace level fields available on our enterprise plan as well. So you can kind of create that standardization across the workspace. All right, so that's kind of the more customer call kind of workflow here inside of projects. Another big addition that we made to the product late last year was a big uplift to the experience for our survey analysis tool. So let's say that I also did a survey. I surveyed 100 Zotify users on their listening habits, and I've already uploaded the CSV of the results into my project. Now, of course, I have this table here. There are tons of different filters I could add to try and slice and dice and do some analysis myself. But what Dovetail actually does now is automatically on an upload for any CSV file, it automatically creates an insight report with kind of the key takeaways from the survey itself. And so what you'll see here are each of these blocks are different questions on the survey. And then what Dovetail has done, the AI has gone in and analyzed the 100 responses and come up with a summary of kind of the key takeaways for that question. You'll see different representations or different visualizations of answers to questions. I have the option to show as a pie chart, a bar chart. I can bring it back to text summary. I have the option here to kind of create what is now essentially a really kind of quick report of the key takeaways of this qualitative survey that I did with my users. So this is available right now on all Dovetail plans, the ability to kind of upload and instantly analyze survey data. But let's go ahead and go back to these calls because I have a ton of highlights in here. You'll see these colors here. All of these calls have been coded, they've been highlighted, they've been tagged. And now I kind of want to do the synthesis of these particular calls in aggregate. And so this is where I would transition into the highlight view. There are a couple different highlight views that our customers really love to use. I'm going to show you two today. The first and probably the most popular is the canvas view. Think of this as like a digital whiteboarding experience, similar to a lightweight Miro or FigJam, where you're presented with kind of a blank canvas, and then you use this reference picker, which are all of the highlights inside of the project, 98 for those who are keeping count. And I can create some filters and start putting some highlights on the canvas to be able to do some affinity mapping. For the sake of this demo, I'm just going to throw all 98 onto the canvas to show you what we call our magic cluster capability. Because even though I can go ahead and I have full control to kind of play with these, move them around, kind of work with it myself, 98 highlights is quite a lot. It's a pretty big wall of text. So I'm going to go ahead and let Dovetail's AI take the first pass at kind of figuring out what are the big themes that are kind of emerging from this data set. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit this cluster button. There's options to cluster by tag or by data, but I'll go ahead and just cluster by themes. This is Dovetail's AI. You'll see it's going to start working and thinking through kind of how to best classify these 98 different highlights. But while it's working, I'll go ahead and I'll pop over to another popular highlight view, which is our table. And the table is really great for those who want to do a little bit of segmentation on the data, especially if you're using a lot of fields. This is really helpful. But I've already kind of added a filter here. I added a filter for feature requests to kind of show how now, just by adding one filter, I can now pull out very quickly all of the feature requests that were made inside of this project. What I can do from there is select them all, and I can download all of these clips into what we call a highlight reel. And what a highlight reel is think of it as like a sizzle reel of, in this case, something like 10 different users making feature requests for Zotify that I can then give a quick little title. And then I can download this and then immediately share it out. Similar to what I just did with that one highlight with Emma, I can embed this video, this little sizzle reel inside of Slack. I can embed it in a Notion page. I can put it wherever my stakeholders are working. And then if I really wanted to take it one step further, I could go to the tag itself. And all I would have to do is remove this project. And now all of a sudden, I have all of the feature requests that have been made across the entire workspace. And I have this same sort of highlight reel kind of stitched together that I can immediately copy and paste into wherever I'd like to share this artifact. All right, so it looks like here our cluster is done. So let's pop back over to that view. And here we are. So you'll see here that each section has a little title with the topic. There are always a few outliers that we pop into the bottom. And I still have full control over all of these. Like I can move some of these things around. I can move individual cards if I wanted to. But really what this is doing is giving me a little bit more directionality on where I want to dig in more on particular topics. So for example, let's say that this playlist features topic is really relevant to me because I know we've been talking a lot about how we can improve our playlist features at Zotify. I have a couple different options on how I can interact with this grouping. I can do the same exact thing I just did on the table and download this into a highlight reel and then immediately share that. Or maybe I have more context that I want to add this extra piece of evidence to. This is where it'd be really good to start building out some insight reports. And that's what this button does here, is adding it to an insight. An insight, kind of the last key component of our project, is kind of a more formalized report out of the learnings from this project that you might share with stakeholders, say in a presentation or in a formal meeting. Luckily, I already have a playlist insight already built out. I'll go ahead and go over to that one so you can kind of get a sense for what it looks like. So here's my insight. You'll see I've got this cool little cover image. I've done a little bit of, I typed in a little bit of a summary here. I've already got a highlight reel embedded here, but I can add even more. I can add some more reference materials, both within this particular project, or I could add other projects, for example. Like, for example, I know this customer interviews is a really interesting project that if folks want to continue learning and building their knowledge, I can send them here. I can also add more highlights. I can add more tags or videos associated with tags. And then once I've built out this entire insight, I can even let Dovetail's AI do some work for me here as well. I can ask our AI to summarize the content inside of this insight for those stakeholders that just want the TLDR before they go digging into the details. Once this insight is finished, I can just hit publish, and then I'll be able to share this with anyone in my workspace. A note here that Dovetail offers unlimited viewer license. So anyone who has a viewer license, as long as this insight is available to everyone, they'll be able to view this. And then I can also copy a link to the insight and then embed it inside of the tools where they are, such as Slack, Notion, Product Board, wherever I want to share this really valuable, all these valuable customer learnings. So we've got a lot planned for projects in 2025. We're looking for ways to make add more automation where it makes the most sense, especially when it comes to data imports, making that super easy. Translation support is on our radar and being worked on, which we're super excited about. Those who've been with us for a long time know that translation has been something we've been thinking about for a long time. And then we've already kind of mentioned this in contacts, but also through projects and these fields inside of the notes. We want to be able to surface more relevant information and metadata inside of fields in your projects so that you can connect business outcomes to the work that you're doing in your research, whether that's, by industry or ARR numbers or different personas or things like that, that might exist in CRMs, for example. All right, so that was kind of, again, our meatiest chapter, our biggest chapter, analyzing data faster. Serena, what questions does everyone have?
The chat's been super rich and lots of conversations happening here. We've got lots of excitement around the magic clustering, and some folks finding that it's been quite helpful, and others with other input as well around, for instance, wishing we could have a headline for each highlight instead of the participant's name. So when it does do the automatic clustering, it does put a little theme kind of title there for you, which you can adjust. And also if you manually create a group, you can also add like a title there too. So a few options there to play with for kind of the visual representation. But yeah, folks were also including some questions around one here. Would love help to know how to merge many insights together. Right now, I cut them into a larger quote unquote report document. This doesn't seem to be the best or right way to make an executive report. So we maybe share a little bit. Best practices on insights as a whole is a very rich conversation. So I'll leave that with you, Alissa. What are some thoughts around that?
Just so I understand the question, it's the ability to kind of combine different insights into one report.
That's right.
Yeah. So definitely, it just kind of depends on how your organization likes to consume information, right? And so whether that's, in this case, the example I gave was very specific, like everything around playlist features is just going to go in one insight. I'm going to only, use this tag, for example, when I create the insight. But let's say I wanted the scope to be a lot larger, then maybe I would just add some more references inside of here. And maybe look for other tags outside of the project, for example. So I think using this reference picker is really useful to be able to pull in the relevant projects, the relevant data types, the relevant tags, and then kind of building an insight from there. I don't know if that answered that person's question, but it really does depend on how your organization consumes that information. We're also always kind of thinking about how we can improve the experience of getting the information that's in your data and in your highlights out into your stakeholders. It doesn't necessarily have to be an insight in a lot of cases. Like, for example, we know a lot of organizations love consuming information via PowerPoint, and an insight doesn't lend itself well to presenting in a PowerPoint. So how can we make like a slides style feature where you can create a readout in a slide format rather than like in a Notion-esque page style readout? So these are all things that are on our product team's mind as we enter 2025. Serena, I don't know if you have anything else to share there.
Yeah, that's basically exactly what I advise. And it also adds that element of traceability, right? Because you may have one kind of finished report that you're referencing to other smaller, maybe there are atomic findings along the way, or a highlight reel you've created and shared as you were doing the research. And that allows you to kind of trace back to those other sources of data too. Awesome.
Amazing. All right. We are doing great on time, everyone. Let's go ahead and move into kind of the third use case here, kind of the third way that folks use Dovetail. Moving away from that point in time, question, I have hypothesis, I want to get answers, kind of research project paradigm, and more towards like the continuous stream of feedback that is coursing all through your organization. How do you stay on top of those trends with Dovetail? And for this, we're going to showcase our channels product, which we released last year. It was really born from this idea that there's lots of different places where you're getting customer feedback that the business might not be leveraging to its advantage. Think like support tickets, NPS scores, app store reviews. We know there's tons of gold hidden in those mountains of data, but it requires that there's someone constantly looking at dashboards, parsing through endless spreadsheets and trying to pull out key themes and trends and then presenting them, on a regular basis. That can be a full-time job in and of itself. And so we recently introduced channels to kind of help with making sense of those mountains of data and making it super easy to stay on top of those emerging trends and patterns that exist in that data. So how I might set up a channel if I were starting from scratch is I would, create a new channel. And then right from the front there, you'll see here that Dovetail is going to ask what type of data is going to go into this channel. This is really helpful for our purpose-built AI to kind of understand how to best interact with and thematically classify the data that's going in. I'll just choose support tickets for this demo. And then from here, I have some options, right? So best practice here is that if you're using one of these four support ticket providers, that you set up an integration into Dovetail, because what this means is you set this integration once, and then as new tickets come in, that information is just streaming into Dovetail continuously. You can also set up custom flows via the Zapier integration or our read-write API. But we do recommend setting up some sort of integration to kind of help with that continuous classification. For this demo, we're not going to set up a continuous flow. I'm just going to go ahead and do the CSV upload, which is also available. And then I'll just have to do some quick mapping. Let Dovetail's AI know where we want to analyze from, which is the ticket data, get the date from the date column. And then I'll also have the option to bring in other columns in the CSV that I can leverage as filters for richer segmentation, which I'll show in just a second. So if I were to hit finish, the data would start coming in and Dovetail's AI would start thematically classifying. I've actually already got this channel built out for us, and it's for the sake of time. And so once I go into the channel, you'll see that these 34 themes are the themes that Dovetail's AI has suggested across these 1,000 data points. And so what these are kind of these thematic groupings, not dissimilar to what we just saw in the Magic Cluster Flow, but obviously an AI that is more attuned to analyzing and grouping support tickets in this case. I've clicked into the following artists and content theme, and you can see here I'm immediately met with an AI-powered summary of kind of the key takeaways from this grouping, along with a quick sentiment score attached to this summary. If I had a continuous integration setup, say with Intercom, as I kind of say I log out and come back a week later, this summary is going to dynamically update to include what's changed since I last logged into the channel. So this is not a static summary. This is something that continues to update as new data is added and things are classified and reclassified. I also have access to the full kind of audit trail of all of the data points that are associated in this grouping. I can click in and immediately look into the full context of the conversation of the support ticket and see any kind of appropriate metadata that I've attached to this. And so from here, I can now kind of get that sense of kind of the scale of this grouping, kind of the volume, and then get that quick TLDR. I might also want to throw on the visualizations, which I know are really popular with some of our users. I'll just show you the following artists and content one. And you'll see I have an option here to represent it in a bar chart. I can also do a line chart as well if I wanted to. But what this allows me to do is kind of get that quick pulse check on how things are trending, how certain themes are trending over time. So let's say, for example, that I'm a product manager. We recently released a fix or some improvements to our following artists and content experience. We released it around the beginning of June. And so I can come into channels super quickly and do a quick pulse check and see support tickets actually dropped off since we released that fix. So it's great to see kind of that quick little positive trend line. If I wanted to do some rich segmentation, like I did in the beginning, I set up all those different filters. I can I can time box this and filter based on date range. I can also filter based on those metadata fields that I created when that I identified when I created the channel. So for example, I can segment based on plan. And so you can see here, there's still folks on the student plan who are occasionally complaining about following artists and content. Maybe something to look into as kind of a place to discover how we might improve that experience for our student plan users, for example. All right. The last thing I'll call out too is that you have complete control over all of these themes. Again, that human in the loop kind of philosophy that we've adopted here at Dovetail. For example, let's say that app performance issues, this feels like quite a broad topic to me. Let's see if I can ask Dovetail to get more granular with this. I can ask Dovetail to split these themes, and our AI takes another pass and presents kind of these new kind of more granular themes that I can either accept or I can reject. I can even add new themes as well. And this would be me interacting directly with Dovetail's AI. And as long as my theme, best practice here, we want to make sure that it's descriptive, that it doesn't have too much kind of organizational context associated with it. I can add as many themes as I'd like, and then I'm essentially teaching Dovetail's AI to be able to look for these new themes, to classify new data that's coming in, and also reclassifying data that already exists inside of the channel. I also have the ability to merge certain themes. So let's say subscription management and billing and payment problems. Those are really similar to me. I'm just going to merge them. And then same thing, I would just give it a good descriptive name. And then moving forward, Dovetail will know how to appropriately classify data that's in the channel. So coming soon here, the team is hard at work. The channels team is trying to continue to improve levels of control, more theme control, introducing things like sub-themes that you can kind of lay out, the ability to pin themes to the top of a list so you can keep track of the things that matter most. More visualizations to allow you to slice and dice the data and visualize it in meaningful ways. And then, of course, more than anything, just more integrations, being able to get more types of data in here. You know, we want more NPS scores, App Store reviews, social media posts, anything out there that's any sort of customer feedback, we want to try and get it into channels so it's continuously analyzed. All right. Any questions about channels, Serena?
Yeah, a question here around, can you look at channels data as well as your interviews, survey data kind of side by side?
Yes, absolutely you can. Not within this channels view, not today, but that's actually a great segue into kind of the fourth and final part of this demo is kind of once you have all of this data inside of your project, all your calls, all your documents, you're continuously streaming and analyzing support tickets and NPS scores. Kind of this is where the promise of the Customer Insights Hub really starts to take hold, and you can see all of this data in aggregate in a meaningful way. Because the fact of the matter is that researchers and people who do research in the organization are slammed with ongoing projects. It often require that stakeholders are engaged. And if they want to better understand their customers, they have to be able to go find these insights themselves. But we know better than anyone that stakeholders, might often feel like these insights are locked away, difficult to find. They don't feel empowered to go look for answers. And so a lot of times they're not asking these questions, or we're repeating research over and over again when the answer already exists. And so this is where Dovetail's the Customer Insights Hub allows anyone in the organization to leverage the power of AI to get answers to those burning customer questions. So now I'm back on the homepage, and I kind of ignored this at the front, but we're going to do it now. This is our magic search capability we released last year. This was a big upgrade from our previous keyword search, and this is now an AI-powered semantic search experience where I just ask a plain text question, and Dovetail knows to search based on meaning of my query and retrieve all of the relevant data points inside of my workspace. Not only that, it will also generate a summary powered by AI of kind of the key takeaways in the workspace that answer this query. And what you'll see here in this summary, it's cut off a little bit, but what this says, if it were fully blown out, was it's 49 results across 5 projects and 5 channels. So magic search queries also include data from channels now. This is a pretty recent update, but now you get that full picture of what's happening across the workspace when it comes to customer knowledge. Now I can go ahead and segment this search. I can add different filters based on maybe I just want to look at certain projects or certain channels. Maybe I just want to look at certain fields, or I want to time box this. So I have full control on kind of the outputs of this search. But no matter what, every summary that generates and regenerates will have links to the relevant data points inside of Dovetail, whether that's data from a channel or a snippet from a call. These are all fully traceable inside of Dovetail and kind of creates that confidence in the data that you need to be able to kind of use an AI-powered tool like Dovetail. And so the best part here is that now, let's say I love this summary, I want to share this with someone immediately, I can create an insight, and then that summary will automatically port over, and then any relevant data inside of the summary will also be included. If there were video clips, they will be included in this insight. If there were any sort of snippets from documents, that'll be included in this insight that I can then publish and share out with my teammates, with my stakeholders instantly. And just kind of taking a pause on that workflow. I think what really excites me about this, I think the power of this is really kind of this idea of the lasting power of research artifacts in your organization. You might have collected these insights at a moment in time where you had a hypothesis, you had this kind of boxed in research project where you answered questions and then you moved on to the next project, and that research is effectively shelved in other organizations. But with the power of Dovetail, these little snippets and these little insights now have a chance to really kind of live on in these queries and gain new life and build even more shared understanding of the customer. I think in a time where research is at this kind of seminal moment, having this existential crisis, this is a great example of showing the power of having a research organization that is continually in a compounding way adding value to the business, which is helping everyone understand the customer better at any given point. It doesn't have to be within the bounds of a dedicated research project. So I really love this feature. And I know a lot of our customers do as well, which is why we heard a lot of feedback that this was a great experience, but it still requires that the stakeholder knows to go to Dovetail to ask that question. And so we started asking ourselves, how might we bring this experience directly to where people are working? And how do we really change the script on how we bring the voice of the customer to life where people work? And so this is where we introduced Ask Dovetail. And so Ask Dovetail is a very similar experience to what I just did over in product, but now you can do it directly in Slack. So in any channel where the Dovetail integration is set up, all I have to do is just ask a quick question. Dovetail, what do customers like about Zotify? And I automatically have this same kind of AI-powered summary, complete with the citations that link me back to the relevant data points inside of Dovetail. So now anyone in the organization, they do not need to be a Dovetail user in any way. They just need to be in the channel that has Dovetail integrated, and they can ask this question the same exact way. But we up-leveled it even more. You can ask follow-up questions on this thread. So for example, I might ask, tell me more about the integrations, for example. And then Dovetail will be smart enough to know that we're having a contextual conversation inside of this thread, and it'll continue to answer and refine kind of the data points that it gives me until I kind of get the answer that I'm after. And then probably the most exciting addition in Ask Dovetail would be this follow for updates button. So all I would do is click this button. And now you'll see I'm creating what's called a digest. And a digest is a pre-configured regular delivery of new insights to any relevant channel that you would completely set up and manage, kind of a set it and forget it type of approach where I have my query. Dovetail has pulled from these relevant projects and channels to answer this first query. I can take some out, I can add more. I can decide the format of this digest. It defaults to text like a newsletter style, but the audio podcast is super popular. We'll show you an example of what it looks like in just a second. I can send the digest to this channel I'm in right now. Maybe I want to put it in our socials as well. And then I decide the frequency. And so what this means is that every week on Thursdays at noon, these channels will automatically get a new digest from Dovetail with the most recent updates on what's happened across the workspace on what customers like about Zotify and how they feel about Zotify. And so what this does is proactively brings new insights directly to your stakeholders without having them to go ask the question or without having you to go bug them for the millionth time. And so what does this look like? Here's an example digest that we've created.
Welcome to this month's latest Customer Insights podcast. Today, we'll dive into some fascinating feedback from our Zotify users, exploring both the features they love and areas where we can improve. First up, let's talk about Zotify's personalized music recommendations and discovery features. Our users are absolutely loving how the app helps them find new music tailored to their tastes without much effort on their part. One user enthusiastically shared their experience with music discovery.
My favorite thing about the app is the discovery of new music. So it suggests quite a lot of different music that I haven't listened to before. But
great. So I'll just pause it there. You kind of get a sense for it. One thing to note there is that first voice is kind of the podcast host. That is an AI generated voice. The second voice, the male voice that you heard there, in this demo is also AI generated. But if it were a real workspace, such as yours or even our Dovetail workspace, if that were attached to a customer call, that would be the actual clip of the customer speaking about what they love about your product or whatever the query may be. And so it's actually literally bringing the voice of your customer directly into a Slack message that everyone in your organization can consume and really hear directly from the voice of the customer. So here at Dovetail, we love using this feature. We have it in almost all of our product channels. We have it in our sales channel with updates from what's happening in sales calls. And so it really feels like we're getting even closer to the needs of our customers. in just like, a few minutes. These podcasts, they range in time, but it's just like kind of listening to your podcast on your morning commute or something like that. But instead it's the voice of your customer. So that's Ask Dovetail, available as an add-on to enterprise plans today for Slack. We know a lot of you might use Teams. Teams is coming in the next few weeks. It will be available. Everything you just saw will be available in Teams very soon. And then we're also just looking for ways to up-level the conversational search in the product. We haven't left that at all. We want to make sure that we're strengthening the power and efficacy of our search inside of product and throughout the product in meaningful ways. And then we're toying around with some really exciting ideas on how to bring the voice of the customer to life even more in your organization as a whole, that we're excited to talk more about later this year at our user conference, Inside Out. So stay tuned for that. Lots of exciting stuff happening there. All right. Woo, we made it, team. Any questions, Serena, about this section or really anything that's popped up before we start to wrap?
Yeah, we've got lots of excitement about Ask Dovetail and lots of people wanting it for Teams. So stay tuned. We're actively working on that right now. More to come. We also got a question saying, love the integration with Slack, but can the Slack channels only focus on one particular persona, user, or department to isolate data that it's pulling from?
Yes, absolutely. You have full control over what projects are, so admins of Dovetail will have full control over what types of data get put into Slack. If you'd like to maybe control which projects are surfaced inside of Slack queries, or I think personas was an example, as long as you have that metadata field, you should be able to kind of create the right sort of environment that you want to kind of port over into Slack. So yes, is the short answer.
Amazing. Thank you, Alissa.
Great.
I'll also drop the link in the chat here for the Inside Out as well. Hope to see you all here in San Francisco in April. Feel free to register online for that. And we've got workshops as well the day before, the full day of talks and breakout sessions. So hope to meet you in person.
Yes, come hang with us in San Francisco. It's also available online for those who are overseas or might not be able to fly into California. But no matter where you are, thanks for being a part of our Dovetail community. We hope that this demo has been super helpful for you all. And of course, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us via our sales team are really great. Or just, I think, hello@dovetail.com. As a reminder, yes, we are recording this. We'll send out the recording as soon as it processes. And until next time, thanks again for joining and have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye-bye.